Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Vince and I'm a life coach and I have basically a lot of experience with codependency. So I'm focusing a lot of my work around working with codependents and things like that. And yeah, I am a life coach as well. So part of my what I'm doing with this channel is kind of informing the public about what codependence is, and it's a lot more than what you've been told. It is a very cunning and baffling kind of thing, and it's very it just has a lot of deeply rooted stuff involved with it, so it goes deeper than a lot of people think. So today, and welcome to my channel, Codependency Coach. As I said, I'm a life coach who specializes in codependency, and yeah, so today I'm going to be going through kind of an introduction into codependency, like the roots, like how it started, and how it started and what we can do about it and things like that. So, essentially, let's jump right into it. All right. Going to put that on screen. All right. So what we have here: introduction to codependency. First thing, your parents or primary caregivers, especially your mother, did not have the tools to love you unconditionally in your developmental years. This is pivotal because this is like the stem of it all. When we're not properly attuned to as children, when we are not properly loved and given like the nurturing and loving and comfort that we need as children, you know, we 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 fail to thrive. If kids are not, given the proper love and and things like that, nurturing, attuning to the child and things like that, they just will not ever, you know, I don't want to say ever, but like in a lot of cases, in the most cases, those children who aren't given that just don't tend to, thrive in life. They become codependent, and it's just really really sad because they didn't get that love that they needed, and so they acted in manipulative ways and controlling ways and things like that to get other people to like them. So the first point here, your parents or primary caregivers, especially your mother, that's like the key piece here. If your mother's like has a mental illness or disease or can't look after you, or maybe she's just preoccupied with work or whatever, it's like it shows the child that he or she is not lovable and not worthwhile. So that's pretty much what this is. So they didn't have the tools to love you unconditionally, meaning that they were not having the tools. It just basically means that they were were not equipped to handle raising a child. They had other things going on in their lives, maybe addictions, maybe other children to look after, or maybe just preoccupied with other things in life. And sometimes that happens, and unfortunately that results in codependency. So here I will go on and kind of read you the second, third, fourth parts to this. And yeah, so your childhood may have seemed normal, or you may have been the victim of neglect or abuse. It doesn't matter whether this negative messaging was overt or covert, meaning like intentionally saying you're a piece of garbage or whatever, or whether it was just kind of like that, the side eye kind of thing, or the just like for me, my mom, said she loved me overtly with her words, but then the messages that I would get unconsciously would signify otherwise. So it was a very confusing kind of thing. So, but as kids, like, we know what people's true intentions are. We are basically empaths or sponges, and it just, we know our intuition speaks to us when we're kids, and our impulses, we're very strongly attached and strongly motivated by our impulses. So what I was going to say here is, so your childhood may have seemed normal, or may have seen you may have been the victim of neglect or abuse. That doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter whether this negative messaging was overt or covert, consciously or unconsciously communicated. Codependency can form in any situation, meaning that your mother could have, or your family could have provided you, with meals and food and like every material thing that's needed for survival. Your parents could have provided you, and you might have seen this as normal. Your parents were able to provide with you physically, but unfortunately they weren't able to provide for you emotionally, and this is where all this stems from, is this emotionally unavailable kind of thing. So let's see. So yeah, whether it's consciously or unconsciously communicated, codependency can form in any situation. But the bottom line is that you did not get the message from your mother that your mother unconditionally loved you. And that could be because she wasn't there, she was preoccupied, she was at work, or whatever. And it's also, the father's responsibility as well to kind of communicate these things to you as well. But I don't want to like pin it all on like your mother. Because the truth is both parents have a role to play in this too. Um your father like putting you down could contribute to your lack of self-confidence and things like that. Second point I have here is that children are sensory sponges from birth to around 3 years old. So they take in the information around them, they pick up on people's energy, they can sense whether they are being loved or when they are not. And since children from 0 to 3 years old are pre-verbal, they pick up early on other cues such as body language, such as vocal tone or facial expressions or things like that. So yeah, just because children can't be communicated with doesn't mean that they are dumb. It doesn't mean that they're not understanding, at least on the emotional level, what's going on. Because they have this, they're basically sensory sponges. They're, and like everything from unconscious messages to conscious messages to, everything is communicated with them. So they might pick things up by the way that you're acting and come to have that same belief as you, but it's like a very unconscious part of them that they're not in touch with. So yeah, children are sensory sponges, and that's huge. Another thing is that since your parents didn't have the tools to help you develop a secure attachment with them, that you developed insecure attachments with them, such as anxious, avoidant, or fearful avoidant. A lot of people think that codependency is a people pleaser, just wanting people who are codependent, they think of them as wanting to please people or wanting to get people's attention and love and affirmation and all this stuff. Well, that is true somewhat, but it's also true that you could have a totally avoidant codependent who is just basically hides in his room and doesn't come out because he's afraid of opening up with his feelings or, being around people because people are scary to him, People are not trustworthy. So we have those three insecure attachment types. So, and you'll see a common theme between the attachment types, symptoms of an insecure attachment and codependency. That's because that insecure attachment with the mother is where this all stems from. So that's kind of what it is. All right. So then my second point I wanted to talk about was, since you did not receive the message that you were unconditionally loved, you perceived yourself as unlovable and worthless. This became a core part of your identity. Okay, so I want you to, these are the major points. So, first, your parents or primary caregivers, or, especially your mother, did not have the tools to love you unconditionally in your developmental years, okay? So this comes down to, since you did not receive the message that you were unconditionally loved, you then perceived yourself as unlovable or worthless. And this became a core part of your identity because it's the mother's job. Again, here I go with the mother. But it's true. It's really true. It is the mother's job to instill a sense of self-worth, lovability, being loving to the child, loving him or her through anything. Junior's angry with me. Oh, that's okay. You can be angry. That's okay. That doesn't affect me. An insecure mother or a mother with insecurities would say, oh, Junior doesn't like me? He's angry at me? Don't you talk to your mother that way. She'll say that kind of stuff. And then, that is like, oh, I can't have any negative emotions around my mom. That teaches that, that it's not okay to share your feelings or be angry or anything like that. So then the child suppresses those feelings and, just lives in denial. And then, 20, 30 years later, he's the guy that goes and shoots up the post office because he wasn't able to, deal with his feelings and soothe himself through that. Instead, he had to, it built up and up and up and up. And the next time a person pissed him off, he goes and shoots up a post office or whatever, So these are the things that can happen with this kind of stuff. And all of humanity is codependent, whether we realize or not, like it or not. So, that's just the truth of the matter. So, second point, since you did not receive the messages that you were loved unconditionally, you perceived yourself as unlovable and worthless. So that's another thing. When we don't have a mother giving us the love, giving us the attention, oh, Junior's mad at me, that's okay, oh, Junior pooped his pants, okay, clean him up and give him a new diaper and all that, and it's like whatever. It's like loving a person through whatever, through their as my spiritual counselor says, being rewarded for every experience that you have as a human. So just because you have an experience, you are supposed to be rewarded for that, or a good parent would reward you for having experiences in life, because that's what it's all about, experiencing things and growing from them, so when we don't have that encouragement, when we don't have that motherly nurturance and support and things like that, then we automatically perceive ourselves as someone who is worthless, because if my own mother doesn't love me, then that's just the automatic assumption. Oh, I'm worthless. I'm unlovable. So yeah, can you guys see how this kind of goes together? There's a problem with the parents not loving the child. The child then perceives themselves as worthless, and then we'll talk about what's next. So for point number 2, being perceiving yourself as unlovable and worthless, and these very early messages, we adopt them as part of our core identity, because this is all being formed in our fundamental years, our developmental foundational years. So and then next thing, the rationalization here for I must be worthless or whatever is, if I wasn't loved by my parents, then I must be unlovable, worthless, etc. Because the human brain is a meaning-making machine, meaning that it looks for meaning in things. So when we don't have a lovable mother, we don't say, oh, well, she's just incapable of loving me at the moment. No, we say, oh, that must be my fault, or that must be my doing. Like, what am I doing that's causing her to not love me, and, things like that. And so we move on to our third point. All right. So our third point is, it is the innate longing of every human being to be loved, to be seen as worthwhile, and be accepted by others. So you naturally decided that you needed to earn the love of others, to prove that you're worthy and worthwhile, and behave in ways that you believe will get others to accept you. This is called codependency. Okay, so we go from mom didn't love me to I am unlovable, therefore I'm unlovable. Therefore, I must do something to prove my love because I want to be loved by other people. It's a core wound when our parents don't love us and nurture us the way that we are meant to be loved and nurtured, like an ideal parent would. So it's that core wound, and we are looking for others to fill us up when we feel empty, because we didn't get all those tools to love ourselves, to nurture ourselves, to see ourselves as wonderful people. We didn't get that. So we're looking for other people to tell us how great we are. in essence. So it is the innate longing of every human being to be loved, to be seen as worthwhile, and be accepted by others. So you naturally decided that you needed to earn love of others, to prove that you are worthy and worthwhile, and behave in ways that you believe will get others to accept you. This is called codependency. And another thing is, we cannot be honest with our feelings. For example, I'll give you an analogy. So there was this lady who attended the PTA meeting every week very loyally, and she would always bring cookies. She would always bring, chocolate chip cookies to the PTA meeting. And her name was Fanny, and she would every week bake cookies and go to the PTA meeting and be super nice, super kind, super friendly to everyone. And week after week, she nobody really thanked her for the cookies. So like everybody was like, eating on the cookies, all munching on them. And that was Fanny's doing. Like, she brought the cookies. So she was, her emotional state, or her needs at the moment were that she wanted to make friends. She wanted people to talk to her, to thank her for everything that she did with making cookies and all that. And she wanted to be loved and accepted, right? She wanted to make friends and for people to like her and make friends with her. And anyway, week after week, people just enjoyed the cookies. They were like, "Oh, thank you. Thanks, Fanny, for making the cookies." And then, they would move on, like, "Oh yeah, thanks." And then week after week, she would get angrier and angrier and angrier. And finally one week she just explodes. "I don't ask for much, but why? But when I do, nobody cares. Nobody pays attention to me. All this, on and on and on." And she's just like, "Why won't anyone pay attention to me? Like, give me love, give me attention, give me friendship?" And that's because there is a quicker way of achieving what you want than doing what you did. You see, she couldn't be honest with what she really wanted, because she wanted people to talk to her, to be friends with her. She wanted to make friends. But instead of saying, to someone at the party or people at the party, "Hey, I'd like to make friends. I'd like to chat with you. I would like to be friends with you." Instead of saying that honestly, she had to go behind everyone's back and try to manipulate them into a friendship, into liking her, loving her, whatever. And none of that worked. So it's better to state our needs rather than manipulating people to give to us what they don't know we want. Essentially, that's it. And so with point 3, we learned that we need to take actions. We learned that we need to do things to be loved. For example, giving cookies to everybody, or being kind to everybody, being overly nice, overly generous, like being a pedestal, being like putting people on a pedestal, being a a pushover, being a people pleaser, things like this. And that's just not the case. We don't need to do those things in order to be loved. the ideal parent, the ideal mother is supposed to like give us the message that just being ourselves is enough to, you know, just because we are alive, just because we exist, is enough to be loved unconditionally. So, so now we have a society where we basically are getting the impression that we need to do something to be loved and not just be loved for doing what we want and, being who we are. So, yeah. Let's see here. So, yeah, and the other point that I made with this thing is that what a loving parent would do is instill self-love by affirming the child's existence and experiences, whether the child is happy, sad, angry, poops his pants, or whatnot. Like the loving parent affirms that just by having a human experience, the child has innate value and is loved simply because they exist. All right, so that's the thing that we need to get back to, because like with codependency, we're learning that we need to do something or be something, accomplish something, have something to be loved, and that's just not the case. I'll tell you this as a recovering codependent myself. The love that I give to myself, it's nothing like the love that I receive from others. The love that I receive from others is not as fulfilling as the love that I give to myself. So that's where we need to go with this. So, and then we have the fourth point here. Codependence is often learned and developed in childhood with our family of origin. However, as we get older and settling into our adult lives with romantic partners and adult friendships, our codependency often takes on new forms and we become controlling, manipulative, avoidant, neglectful, or abusive with our partners. So it's not just a people pleaser. When the people pleaser doesn't get what he wants, he becomes controlling, bitter, neglectful, all those things. So it's more than just that one-dimensional kind of thing. So we act out in these abusive ways, or we act out in these ways to manipulate others into loving us, accepting us, etc. Except that it never works. Our relationships become destructive and toxic both to us and others because we never learned how to behave in ways that encourage healthy, loving relationships to flourish. Meaning that, we're very self-centered. We're thinking about us more than we're thinking about the other person. And like, honestly, that example that I gave you with the Fanny's cookies, that was a selfish move by her. It was very selfish because it was thinking about herself and not thinking about other people or things like that. It was putting her needs above anyone else's needs, or kind of just manipulating people into doing what she wanted. So manipulative, controlling, things like that. And then when nobody would do what she wanted, she would get very upset about that. So that's codependency. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much how this plays out. And I'm gonna do future videos where I go into a lot of this stuff and talk about it in depth, and specifics and things like that. So if you want to know more about codependency, or if you're a recovering codependent, or maybe a codependent who needs recovery, I will please just subscribe to the channel and follow me, and yeah, because I'll be posting a lot about this stuff. So yeah, before I go, I'm going to take a quick second to pause this video, and we'll come back with the patterns and characteristics of codependency. I got these from coda.org. Coda is Codependence Anonymous. And just as a disclaimer, this channel has no affiliation with Codependence Anonymous. We are a totally separate entity from them. So yeah, just something to note. All right, I'll see you guys in a second. All right, guys. So we're going to be going through these recovery pattern, or the patterns and characteristics of codependency from coda.org. And before I continue, I just want to let you guys know that, like, I have I just had some dentistry work done, so I might be sounding a little bit weird from my main, like how I usually talk, but yeah, it is what it is, kind of thing. So anyway, let's continue. So I listed these in no particular order. We do have groups of patterns, so this is the low self-esteem patterns. So low self-esteem patterns are: codependents often have difficulty making decisions. Codependents often judge what they think, say, or do harshly as never good enough. Codependents often are embarrassed to receive recognition, praise, or gifts. Codependents often value others' approval of their thinking, feelings, and behavior over their own approval. Codependents often do not perceive themselves as lovable or worthwhile persons. Codependents often seek recognition and praise to overcome feeling less than. I cannot talk today. Codependents often have difficulty admitting a mistake. Codependents often need to appear to be right in the eyes of others, and may even lie to look good. Codependents often are unable to identify or ask for what they truly need or want. Codependents often perceive themselves as superior to others. See, that this is the thing. This is the thing. Like, it's not just people pleasers, it's other things. So yeah. Codependents often look to others to provide their sense of safety. Codependents often have difficulty getting started, meeting deadlines, and completing projects. Codependents also have trouble setting healthy priorities and boundaries. All right. So yeah, I just want to, like, remind you that, if you see anything that resonates with you here, mark which ones, like, take a note of, like, which ones you resonate with. And trust me, like, I resonate with like 98% of this stuff, so it's a lot. So anyway, if you do resonate with this stuff, you are a codependent, so congratulations. But yeah, no, it's and the other thing is, like, it's okay to be codependent. Like, at least we are, not staying in it, and we're actually looking for solutions to solve that. So, yeah, and another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is that, everything that I mentioned above about how it starts and how it's formed and how it's like formed in other relationships. I want you guys to know that just because we know what it is and we know the patterns and characteristics and we know all this stuff about codependency doesn't mean that we can recover on our own with our own thinking. See, this is where we get into step 2 and 3, that like I don't have all the answers. Like, I mean, being a codependent in recovery, I've come to find a lot of answers for myself, but yeah, I don't have all the answers. Only, a higher power has all the answers. So, and that's a very difficult thing for a lot of us to come to accept and acknowledge. But anyway, all right, so these were the low self-esteem patterns. Next, we have the avoidance patterns. So, codependents often act in ways that invite others to reject, shame, or express anger towards them. Codependents often judge harshly what others think, say, or do. So if you're a very judgmental person, then you are codependent. See what I mean about it, and not just being people pleasers. It can be very judgy people as well. So yeah, it can be a lot of things. Codependents often avoid emotional, physical, or sexual intimacy as a way to maintain distance. See, it can be avoidant as well. It can be a lot of things. Avoidant, emotionally avoidant, and physically avoidant, sexually avoidant, things like that. Codependents also often allow addictions to people, places, and things to distract them from achieving intimacy in relationships. Oftentimes you'll see like codependents often have like other addictions, maybe alcohol addiction, maybe sex addiction, maybe love addiction, or things like that. Drug addiction, certainly not uncommon, So, yeah. Codependents often use indirect or evasive communication to avoid conflict and confrontation. Codependents often diminish their capacity to have healthy relationships, but by declining to use the tools of recovery. A lot of codependents say, "Oh, I'm recovered. I'm good," but then they relapse. They don't use the tools. So, codependents often suppress their feelings or needs to avoid feeling vulnerable. Codependents often pull people toward them, but when others get too close, push them away. Codependents often refuse to give up their self-will to avoid surrendering to a power greater than themselves. Again, see, we can know a lot about codependency, but that doesn't mean that we are healed of it just because we know a lot about it, even like there's people who know a lot about it, but they sometimes fail to see it in their own lives and use the tools in their own lives. So then we have codependents also often believe displays of emotion are a sign of weakness. So if you're one of those hard people who, don't like seeing people cry or think that crying is weak or any emotional expression is weakness, codependent. Congratulations. Codependents often also withhold expressions of appreciation. So if you're one of those people, codependent. All right, next we have compliance patterns. So codependents often are extremely loyal, remaining in harmful situations too long. Codependents often compromise their own values and integrity to avoid rejection and anger from others. Codependents often put aside their own interest in order to do what other people want. This is the people pleaser. Codependents often are hyper-vigilant regarding the feelings of others and take on those feelings of others. So if you're one of those people who, has a hard boundary between caring for your own feelings versus the feelings of others, codependent, and enjoy. But codependents also are often afraid to express their beliefs, opinions, and feelings when they differ from those of others. Codependents also are often accept sexual attention when they want love. So, you'll see this often with women, codependent women, accepting, any kind of attention, but it's not, what they really want, which is love. Codependents often make decisions without regard to consequences. Making decisions without really thinking about it and things like that. Yeah. Codependents also often give up their truth to gain approval of others and avoid change. All right, now moving on to some control patterns. Codependents often believe people are incapable of taking care of themselves, so they have to control them and take care of them. Codependents often attempt to convince others what to think, feel, or do. Codependents often freely offer advice and direction without being asked. Codependents often become resentful when others decline their help or reject their advice. Codependents often lavish gifts or favors on those they want to influence. Codependents often use sexual attention to gain approval and acceptance. Codependents often have to feel needed in order to have a relationship with others. That's a huge one too. Codependents often demand their needs be met by others. Codependents often use charm and charisma to convince others of their capacity to being caring and compassionate. Codependents often use blame and shame to exploit others emotionally. See? Do you guys see how this can be more than just people pleasers or things like that? It's often really deep-rooted stuff, and we has the capacity to be very damaging to other people too. So let's see here. Codependents often refuse to cooperate, compromise, and negotiate. Codependents often adopt an attitude of indifference, helplessness, authority, or rage to manipulate outcomes. Because oftentimes codependents can't tell you what they want. They can just get what they want by manipulating you, essentially. Or manipulating others. Codependents often use recovery jargon in an attempt to control the behavior of others. Codependents often pretend to agree with others in order to get what they want. So manipulation, control, being like a chameleon kind of thing. Yeah, codependency. So I hope you guys are getting a good idea of what this is by reading these, because this really helped me out a lot in the beginning too. So, and then we have denial patterns. Codependents often have difficulty identifying what they're feeling. Codependents often minimize, alter, or deny how they truly feel. Codependents often perceive themselves as completely unselfish and dedicated to the well-being of others. Codependents often lack empathy for the feelings and needs of others. See, that's how do you lack empathy and then you go and be a people pleaser? Those things are not congruent, but yet they are. So, different signs and symptoms. Let's see here. I lack empathy for the feeling and needs of others. Codependents often label others with their negative traits. Codependents often think they can take care of themselves without any help from others. Codependents often mask pain in various ways, such as anger, humor, or isolation. Codependents often express negativity or aggression in indirect or passive ways, such as being passive-aggressive. Codependents also often do not recognize the unavailability of those people to whom they are attracted. Alright, guys, so yeah, that's pretty much the thing that codependency is. It's all those things, and it's a lot of them are used at different times in different, places and spaces, and yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing like a deep dive into codependency, and if you guys want the solution, I will be I'm going to be making a 12-step program, teaching the 12 steps as I understand them, as I've done them in programs and things like that. And essentially, no relation to Codependence Anonymous. I'm kind of doing my own thing here. But yeah, so I'm going to be developing that program to help codependents through their codependency with working the 12 steps and things like that. So yeah, and like another thing that I've noticed is like I've researched, like, just kind of looked around on YouTube for videos with the topic of codependency, and I find a lot of them are like, cure your codependency. Well, this video will help you cure your codependency, and it's not that simple. It's really not that simple. I can't say that your codependence will ever be cured completely. It's, for me, codependency, my recovery is basically just about reducing symptoms, reducing, my tendency to be codependent or things like that and I do that in several different ways. I have several different tools in my toolbox. So, yeah. And so if you guys want to take the journey with me to recovery from codependence, I can guide you through that. And yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And yeah, I'm gonna have my own 12-step program, and like you guys can join if you like. And if not, then other programs will work for you as well. But I'm also going to, as a spiritual teacher and yoga teacher, qigong teacher, I'm going to incorporate some spiritual practices with the 12 steps, which is going to be very, very interesting. I think it'll be very impactful and very just very helpful to you. So yeah. And then also I'm gonna get my that 12-step program up and running. Haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna do it as I go, kind of thing. And yeah. The other thing is that if you want coaching with me, if you want me to coach you through your codependence, yeah, you can reach out to me privately, and I will help you with that. It's going to be at a cost, like I'm doing this as a business, but yeah, it's definitely worth it. Like, we can all do this 12 steps, but like having someone to help us, coach us through that is the most important thing, because again, we can't depend on our own understanding. We have to ask someone else to help us along and do this together with them. So, I'm here for you, and, so yeah, this is going to be a very interesting journey to go through with you guys. So, yeah, if you're down for it, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you like this video. And I do have a couple things to promote. My Cosmic Qigong program is right here. Cosmic Qigong. And then we have the self-transformation challenge right here. So the self-transformation program is basically a combination of yoga and Qigong, and that's like a morning, midday, and night practice and all that good stuff. And then we have the Cosmic Qigong program, and that is basically a standalone Qigong program, and it does have a lot of basic things in there. However, I find as I'm progressing in my Qigong and unlocking my meridians and things like that, opening up my meridians and having the energy flow through my body, all I really need is the basic program, the basic exercises. Those basic exercises are very profound, and Qigong masters actually, like, they'll do like the harder, more hardcore exercises and forms and postures and things like that. But then once they've achieved a certain level of mastery, they go back and do the beginning stuff, because that's the foundational stuff. That's really all they need. So I have those two programs. So if you want, you can go to my other channel, or my website, which is gebotheshaman.com. That is gebotheshaman.com. That is, I'll spell it out for you. GEBO theshaman.com, SHAMAN.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me, guys. And I look forward to speaking with you soon, and let me know, what you want me to talk about with as it pertains to codependency. All right, guys, and yeah, we will talk to you next time. Peace. Take care. Take care, guys. Oh, I'm trying to hit the button.